The gentleman, for what purpose is the gentleman from New York seek recognition?
I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized.
Let me first just say that I expect that when the court does hear this challenge, if it comes to that, I expect that she will rule in favor of the constitutional separation and checks and balances in our oversight function. I really don't understand the arguments that have been articulated by my colleagues. And as I understand it, there have been three different reasons that have been suggested for opposing our effort to simply uphold our Article I responsibility as a separate and co-equal branch of government. One, that this whole thing is a politically inspired witch hunt. Nonsense. Two, they want to all of a sudden protect the reputational interests of innocent Americans. Nonsense. Three, this blanket assertion of executive privilege. Nonsense. Let's take all three. First of all, 17 different intelligence agencies have concluded that Russia interfered with our election, attacked our democracy for the sole purpose of artificially placing someone at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. They were successful. And that's also what the Mueller report shows. This is not a politically inspired witch hunt. I'm confused. Every single person at the helm of this investigation is a Republican. The person who initiated the investigation, former FBI Director James Comey, Republican. The FBI Director who replaced him and presided over the investigation, Christopher Wray, Republican. The person who decided to appoint a special counsel to preside over the investigation and then monitored it at the helm of the Department of Justice, the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, Republican. The person who actually conducted the investigation, a war hero, a law enforcement professional, Bob Mueller, lifetime Republican. Who is the Attorney General going to investigate? The Republican Party? The notion that it's a politically inspired witch hunt is just one of 10,000 or more misrepresentations that have been spun out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. It's a shame that you choose to adopt it and parrot it. Second, reputational interests? Really? Many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle actually perpetrated a witch hunt as it relates to securing more than 800,000 documents from this very same Department of Justice without regard to the reputational interests of Americans who have served this country. You weren't concerned with the reputational interests of Hillary Clinton. In fact, the top Republican said that the sole objective was to undermine her, the former First Lady and Secretary of State. You weren't concerned with the reputational interests of Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. In fact, you embarrassed those two. They made mistakes, but you embarrassed those two. You weren't concerned with the reputational interests of Andy McCabe. So don't peddle that phony argument to us. This very same Department of Justice turned over 800,000 pages of documents, but they won't turn over a single page pursuant to a legitimately issued subpoena? And then you want to assert executive privilege. Are you kidding me? You can't assert executive privilege after the fact when the closest advisors to the president have already spoken to Team Mueller. Wait a second, let's try to go through this. White House counsel Don McCann talked to Mueller. There's no assertion of executive privilege. White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders talked to Mueller. No assertion of executive privilege. White House Communications Director Hope Hicks talked to Mueller. There was no assertion of executive privilege. It's a phony argument. The House is a separate and co-equal branch of government. We're not a wholly owned subsidiary of the Trump administration. We don't work for Donald Trump. We work for the American people. We have a constitutional responsibility to serve as a check and balance on an out-of-control executive branch. The Attorney General is totally out of control. He will be held in contempt of Congress